YouTube. Honestly, I was thinking about not even uploading this weekend because I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed and a little bit overstimulated, but I went grocery shopping, and while I was out, the FiveBelow store was right next door, and I found this. So again, if you guys don't know what FiveBelow is, it's kind of like a bougier dollar store. Everything in it is $5 or below. It's a common store these days in America, and they just have really cheap but kind of fun and nifty little things. And sometimes I like to take a look at their art supplies just to see if there's any sort of like hidden gems in there. And I found this guy. It's a gray and brown sketchbook. And if you're new to my channel, you'll know that I have used for the past couple years almost exclusively toned, generally the tan type of sketchbooks or mixed media papers for almost all of my artworks, with a few exceptions. So I found this, I thought we would just give it a try. Again, everything at the store is generally pretty cheap quality, even though they deck it up and make it look like it might be better quality than it is. But I fully expect for everything that I buy from there to be pretty much garbage. It has gray and brown paper. As you can see here, it's actually kind of more like a greenish color, to be honest with you. And it's apparently 155 GSM, 96 pounds, and it's a 9x12 acid-free paper. And just like in comparison, because I was touching it in the store, I mean, you should probably use sketchbooks for what they're supposed to be for as a sketchbook. I'm gonna douse this sucker in paint and just see how it holds up. Because I did, like I was trying to compare just like texture wise. This paper feels decently thick. Like the mixed media sketchbooks or the watercolor papers that I've been using are not too different. So this is the Hahnemühle Toned Tan paper. This is my absolutely like my favorite watercolor paper that I've used of all time. My only beef with them is I wish that they came in like a nice bound sketchbook in like the 9x11 size, because the sketchbooks they do have that are bound are like 4x6 or like 5x5. So they're really small. They do come in little paper pads too, but I'm not like a big fan of loose leaf paper. Like I just don't keep up with it. It gets on my nerves, and for some reason I find it to be really uninspiring when I can remove and like trash a piece of paper. I don't know, I think there's like a stress of you have to make something that looks nice in an actual sketchbook, because you generally can't rip it out. Everything is like bound in here and like permanent kind of. Not really, but that's how it feels in my mind. So, but this is the Hahnemühle paper. This one's my favorite. This one's 200 GSM and 95 pounds. So this is 155, 96 pounds. And this one's got a little bit more of the watercolor tooth to it, but it's not, this one's like softer, so it doesn't quite have that tooth. Of course it is a sketchbook. I'm aware that this is a sketchbook, but like paper feel wise, it doesn't necessarily feel all that different. And then recently I've been using the Stillman and Byrne mixed media journal, and this journal in particular, it says it's for light washes. So it's for things like, oh, they're saying like pastels and I think pencil and like light washes of ink. But I've been dousing this thing in, you know, watercolor and gouache, and it's held up pretty well. There's some like page warping in here, but this paper is super duper thin, but it holds up really well. And I think that this is like very similar. This is actually, I think, thicker maybe than this paper. It's just this still kind of has a little bit of a tooth to it. But you know, I also use this is my old journal that I filled, that I showed you guys a long time ago when I finished it. So this is the Strathmore mixed media journal, and I don't know what the GSM on this one is, but the texture, I think this is very similar. This is very similar to the Strathmore. It's just that the Strathmore is very thick. This is like, what's the word I'm looking for? This is almost like a Bristol board type of thick paper. So this is of course much thinner. So maybe it's like a cross between the Stillman and Byrne and the Strathmore. The smoothness from the Strathmore, but the thinness of the Stillman and Byrne. I'm just really curious. I just like toned paper. I like the way toned paper adds a certain feel to illustrations, and I just want to know if it can hold up to the abuse of watercolor and like acrylic gouache. I'm constantly on the Google looking for tan sketchbooks. So I'm excited to have found this. I'm gonna use the tan paper, and I don't want to do anything that I potentially might actually like in here, because what if it gets ruined? So I think what I'm gonna do is, I don't know, I'm gonna draw maybe little hearts or something, and then we'll just coat it in gouache and see how much the paper warps. Does that sound like a plan? Okay, you know what? I drew a couple of quick and simple little bitty carrots, because why not? Valentine's Day is over and everybody's putting out their Easter stuff. Or well, they really had been already putting out their Easter stuff. But we'll do a couple like Easter carrots. And I saw another user on the art side of YouTube, the art supply side of YouTube, who had never heard of the Shin-Hand Pass colors before. And I was trying to explain to him, like via comment, that I actually really like the Shin-Hand Pass. So I'm just going to, I think, use this. Just because, really, I'm just going to do this whole thing in like purple as a background, then we'll do this in watercolor if the paper can take it and the paper doesn't rip. But the Shin-Hand Pass, I don't think I've ever actually opened this color. I like to collect lots of purple stuff, but I don't think I've ever actually used this one. I did use a bunch of the blues on some illustrations some time ago. This one's just been sitting on my shelf. So we're gonna use that now. But these are like a watercolor gouache hybrid, and they're interesting. I think that they're a very similar texture to like the Holbein acrylic gouache, or the acrylic gouache. And this, since I've never opened it, I wonder if I have to mix this up. Oh, normally, like, again, I haven't used this in a while, so I think it's separated, and that's probably a me thing. It's kind of watery like the acrylic gouache, dries on matte, kind of like gouache, but you can reactivate it like a watercolor. It's a little bit more liquidy than just your traditional gouache though. I think it's really cool. I'm gonna see if I can mix this up a little bit. This color is a heliotrope. I'm wondering if I should have used like a lighter lilac. Whatever, I've already opened this one. If they were easier to get, I would really collect more Shin-Hand products. Everything that I've gotten from them, I've really, really liked. I'm a little scared. And again, I understand that this is supposed to be sketchbook paper, and I probably shouldn't abuse it this way. Need a little bit more. I had to stop to let this dry, and I went to go eat something and do some other chores. But actually, so far we're doing pretty good. I'm gonna start coloring this in with just watercolor, and then we'll see how she does with colored pencil. White acrylic ink marker for good measure. Anyway, so look at that. I don't think that's too bad for being a little budget sketchbook that I found at the dollar store. I'm pleasantly surprised. I did play around a little bit and attack a page with like some alcohol markers and some acrylic pens and some colored pencil just to see if I could like purposefully tear the paper, you know, just with your regular usage, and it didn't. It held it fine. I probably wouldn't necessarily use alcohol markers in here because I had a little bit of some blending issues, but then again, I also probably shouldn't have used paint in here, but I did it anyway. And I also use alcohol markers in inappropriate sketchbooks, so not a big deal. The only kind of, I guess, one negative drawback is the pages aren't perforated. So if you do decide you wanted to rip a page out of your sketchbook, you're gonna have to, you know, cut the page with some scissors or something. But I mean, that's fine because all of my other sketchbooks don't have perforated pages and I keep them in the sketchbook. I never rip them out. So that's okay. But I'm kind of excited. It's got 2 different colored papers in there, although I was really looking for just the tan. I think one day I kind of want to do like a tan paper show off because I own so many. I think there's only one brand of tan paper that I haven't tried yet, and I think it was made by Rembrandt. But again, I like for my stuff to be in sketchbooks. The Rembrandt tan paper comes in watercolor blocks, and I just don't like loose leaf paper. This is almost like a lighter version of the Strathmore, so it's totally usable paper. I'm pleasantly surprised, and if I run out, I wouldn't hesitate to get this sketchbook again. So anyway, just if you're interested, that's it. That's all that I'm gonna do for right now. I will see you guys next week, probably with something else. And then you guys have a good weekend, okay? Bye-bye.